Hey guys, so it's my 2000 subscriber special, and for that, I'm going to be kind of showing off what I wanted to do for a little while, and that's showing what you can do with cheap pedals. By cheap pedals, I mean none of these cost over $45. Actually, most of them cost $38, and the mixer cost $38 as well. The looper was $45. And as you saw in a video I just posted before this, that was the video. I'll have a link down below to get to it, but that's the song I made with this. I won't be putting that in this. This is a separate video, but yeah, I'm going to go over kind of what I used these for to make that song. I'm not going to go full tutorial on how I made that song, but we'll see what I did to get a stereo image out of an obvious mono delay and some of the cool things you can do here. So I decided to choose one of the most inexpensive polysynths that I know of that just sounds absolutely fantastic and is pretty full featured. These go for about $250 used right now, and the great part is I think they're going to go down even more in price because the Mini Freak was just announced, and I'm sure people are going to be dumping these out. I love this synth. It's absolutely fantastic for the price point. I shouldn't even say for the price point. It's just great. It's a little thin sounding, but that's what we have some of these pedals to help with. So yeah, obviously you could get something like a Zoom 70 CDR, which does most of these effects except distortion unless you hack it. It doesn't do good distortion if you hack it anyway. As instead of getting individuals, I like individual pedals. I still like the Zoom as well, but yeah, I just like having separate things to tweak and mess with and not have to do with a menu in that case. And obviously I still need a looper for what I'm doing. So in that video that I had with this song, that was Berlin School Style, or as it's also referred to as Kosmisch Musik in German, which means cosmic music, as in space music, not to be like confused with komisch music, which is weird music, but yeah, it's also kind of weird, so that's kind of funny. And I think it came out really good, but yeah, I'm partial to it because I made it, obviously, so there's that. So let's get a little rundown of what I have going on here. I'm going to use this patch here. Yeah, so it's in monophonic mode, and the reason behind that is because I've found that a lot of distortions don't like a polyphonic signal. They kind of they just blend the frequencies together because of how they're just smashing the frequency response, things like that. I don't know what the real details behind that are, but I'll let you listen. Here, let's listen. Sounds pretty reasonable. It'll sound really reasonable with a delay in place. But now if I go back to the polyphonic or paraphonic mode, just it's too much in my opinion. It's just too much going through, too many frequencies going through. It just doesn't sound very good. So yeah, I will do that. Obviously for pads I won't be going through the distortion, but the reason I'm using the Joyo Splinter here, which is it's a clone of a Proco, I think it's the Fat Rat or one of those, that's because the Rats just sound good. The Rats also have a really nice sounding filter, and it kind of gives a style of like a Moog overdriven filter sound to something that's kind of thin like the Micro Freak is here. The other reason I like to use this one in particular, this has the fat sound, or the fat mode, which keeps the bottom in the bottom frequency. So we can go to stock. A little too bright, but now we still have that bottom end here and that bite. And without. Now let's talk about this looper. So my setup is we're going in straight into the Splinter, which is the distortion, into the looper. Now the looper is a little janky. It was cheap, but the jankiness of here kind of works out because we like the lo-fi sound for what I'm doing. Or I like the lo-fi sound for what I'm doing. So here, we'll listen. I'll go at a little higher frequency because then you can hear the roll off. I hope this comes through YouTube. It's not super noticeable, but there's a bit of roll off there, and it's acceptable, especially for the price. But here's where this looper is really good. It's the cheapest looper I found that can do reverse and half or double speed while doing reverse. So that's really cool. I like that. So now we go into the Mag Delay, which is a clone. It's the Mosky Magnetic Delay. It's a clone of the Keeley Mag Echo. And this thing sounds absolutely fantastic. And it has a few things about it that make it very useful for this. The first thing is, as you noticed here, I have the feedback cranked all the way up, and it doesn't self-oscillate. That is absolutely cool. Let's listen. Especially with the distortion. The distortion's a little noisy because it's amplifying the noise that's coming out of the microfreak. The microfreak's a little noisy, so it's a little buzzy, especially because of how it handles grounding for this touchpad to work. So just be aware of that. Have this maybe going when you have a nice pad already laid down that doesn't have the distortion in. So... But if you have it going with actual audio, you don't really notice the 60 hertz hum going through it. Every rad I've ever had has been noisy in those kind of ways, so it's not just the Splinter. But yeah, back onto the distortion. I mean, not the distortion, I'm sorry, the Mag Delay here. It doesn't self-oscillate, and it has modulation, and the modulation sounds really good. It's supposed to emulate a tape echo. I don't think it really does, but it emulates an analog bucket brigade delay really well. This is digital. It's based on the PT2399 delay chip. So it is a digital delay, but for all purposes, it really does have that analog style. The major thing is yeah, let's listen instead of me talking. So really lo-fi, really nice amount of modulation, but if I turn the speed down, then it or the speed up, so it's like less delay time, it's less lo-fi. So kind of like a bucket brigade delay. It does the pitch thing too. I like it at the full setting with the feedback totally maxed out because it really sounds good. And it gives you a lot of repeats without going into self-oscillation. So really cool. And the modulation sounds really damn good. It kind of gives you the vibrato that a tape is supposed to give you, but it's a little too triangular, I guess, to say. It's not random enough, but... still sounds absolutely fantastic. All right, so I have a pretty cheap mixer here. This mixer sounds pretty good. I've had it for a little while. I use it as a sub mixer. It's fairly low noise. It's USB powered, comes with its own supply. I should say at this point, I'm not sponsored by any of these. I would not these work for me. I don't know what the longevity is. So since I'm not sponsored, I'll say that. Take them with word of caution. Cheap things don't last as long in a lot of cases. So, but I've had this a few months and it hasn't just, caught the house on fire. So that's always a good sign. And it's lasted. I think the point of failure on this thing is going to be the USB input on it. It's very tight and it is PCB mounted. So I'll probably have to solder that at some point. I like this mixer enough to actually fix it. Should be sort of fixable. I think the newer version of this has USB-C, so it may be more robust, but don't quote me on that. The pictures look like it does, but it might just be a bad picture. So yeah, the mixer's here for one specific reason. I'm splitting the signal coming out of the delay into two channels. That I could just do with a passive splitter, but I need to change the volume of both channels because the classic course has a volume boost and the classic flanger does not, as far as I can tell. I've done a video about the classic flanger in the past, like this thing. I've had it for a while. Also has lasted so long. And the Joyo, the Splinter, I was lasted for a little while. The Classic Horse I just got the other day. Don't know what the longevity is, but I don't see a lot of people saying that the Joyo pedals tend to fail all that often, so that's a good sign. Don't know about this one, but yeah, definitely don't know about the looper yet. So the only other problem with the Joyo pedals is they are god-awfully ugly when you get them, especially the chorus. It had a fist on it. I mean, what the hell does the fist have to do with the chorus? But whatever. I decided to put on some fruit basket stickers, and they're much cuter. So obviously here I have the two airheads from the series because it's a flanger and it makes airy noises. And on the chorus, I mean, the same thing, but not as airy, I guess. So whatever. And then I have Yuki on the Joyo because he turns into a rat, and it's obviously a rat clone. So, hey, some cheap stickers, you can make these look good. I think the Splinter looks good by itself, but I had to because that's hilarious. It's a rat, I had to. So yeah, the back to the mixer after all that. The mixer is splitting the signal into these two, and obviously you can hear a drop of volume on the left channel because we're going to now engage these and there's going to be a volume boost. And now if we engage the flanger, you have to be listening to this in stereo, headphones or speakers, but now you get a beautiful stereo image and it's just gorgeous. And now if we engage the distortion, I'm going to go to that patch I used in the opening here. That has some glide in it. This is more Moukey, or Moukey, I guess, because Dutch it would be Moch or whatever. I'm just shredding there with my... Man, it has that style. It has that awesome Berlin School cosmic music style. Tangerine Dream. I'm going for that Tangerine Dream, early Tangerine Dream style, They're good stuff. I mean, I guess a lot of the good stuff that I like, though, the funny thing about it is it wasn't Moog-ish. It was mostly like FM synth and the synth clavier and stuff like that. So it would have been a different era. But there are early stuff where they used the Moukey stuff or that era sounds pretty good too. But yeah, absolutely beautiful, especially with the mag delay. God, that sounds good. I'm just surprised. A lot of people have a stigma against cheap pedals. I mean, I did. I grew up in the 90s, and cheap pedals were absolute garbage back then. You didn't know. You just didn't know. And the internet existed, obviously, but people didn't have a lot of forums to jump onto and say, hey, this pedal absolutely sucks. Hey, this one killed my dog. You just don't know. These days, it's a little better because you got a lot of sites, obviously, to have reviews up, but you also have like forums and places where people discuss this. So companies can't get away with just selling a crappy pedal that doesn't work out of the box. So they've definitely gotten better over the years. I remember when a lot of the cheap pedals were made out of plastic, like really bad plastic. I mean, I guess Behringer just entered the chat, right? Because they still make their pedals out of plastic, but whatever. These are all metal. These feel like they might last. I can't say. The circuits and all of the Joyo pedals that I know of, these ones in particular, are all through whole components. So in theory, you could fix them. I don't know how cost effective that would be, but at home, they're all off-the-shelf components. The only thing that'd be hard to get on these two are the Bucket Brigade chips. These are actually true analog choruses. They both have Bucket Brigade chips in them. They also have the proper Bucket Brigade timing chips. So yeah, for that $38 price point of that's really cool, and they sound pretty good. The flanger, I did make a video, like I said, about this before. It runs a little distorty with hot signals, but I kind of like where that goes. But yeah, especially with the distortion. I just have to do that again. It just sounds great. Yeah, so again, I'm just getting at, guess don't look into the stigma too much on that. Joyo's been around for a little while. I'm not sponsored by anybody that you see here. That's why I'm saying that be aware. They might just die on you one day. So yeah, especially the mixer because of that input. But yeah, they've gotten good and you can make some good sounds out of it. So yeah, I don't know what else to say other than that. I just been wanting to make a video where I show, hey, you can make good music using cheap equipment. And because a lot of my music that I've thrown out, I've been using very expensive equipment. And obviously a lot of people that see that and say, I've gotten comments and it's like, yeah, I understand. It's not affordable. None of it is affordable. This is affordable. But yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks for the 2,000 subscribers. I'll be back for more soon. I have some cool things coming up very soon on some other stuff.